My name is Saeed Abbasi. I work for Qualys as a vulnerability research manager, and also I'm a product owner for our vulnerability research team that goes to writing signatures, doing the zero-day research, and things like that. And today, we want to discuss the data in regard to vulnerability remediation and the pace of vulnerabilities, how they are being fixed over time based on the data that we had from our customers, anonymized data. And here is the agenda. We're gonna start talking about the method and the data. We're gonna go over CVE trends. We will talk a lot about CISA and CISA KEV. And also we have industry benchmark. We will talk a little about ransomware, and we go to vulnerability management. Let's start with the data. The data that we collect and all the insights that you will see today is based on last year data from beginning of the year to the end. All data related to 2024, and we had a large data set. To put it in a perspective, Qualys on average doing around 6 billion scan a year. And the data set that we had was 750 million record for CISA KEV vulnerabilities, the detection that happened based on CISA KEV vulnerabilities and the high risk and critical vulnerability that it wasn't part of CISA KEV. The total CVEs, the unique CVE was 321 CVE, all discovered and disclosed in 2024. And we examined mainly on when these vulnerabilities being detected, and also we went and dig into the characteristics of these vulnerabilities and the data regarding to exploitation based on the threat feeds that we have, which is around 25 different threat feeds that's coming to Qualys. And let's start by talking a little about my team. Our team called Qualys Threat Research Team. We are the team that they are behind the vulnerability detection and research at Qualys, which our research and our work goes to every single product of Qualys, which is a risk management and vulnerability management product. We have around 120 people around the world that actively looking into these vulnerabilities, poking them. And our team also discover lots of 0 days, and not 0 day because we work closely with the vendor to have the patch ready and then we disclose it. It's not 0 day anymore, but one of the notable one are OpenSSH server vulnerability regression. And also we won a couple of awards. The Pony Award, if you're not familiar with Pony Award, they are like Oscar for movies, but for information security and research in information security. The reason that I put these two awards that we won, because Pony Award, the same way as they're celebrating the excellence, they also give award to epic fails. That's why I had to put it here. And last year, someone who shut down the airport for a couple of days got the award during blackout. Okay, let's take a look at the data from last year. We had just a little over 40,000 vulnerability in 2024. And it was 39% jump from a year before. And right before I come to WarnCon, I take a look at how is the CVE numbers from last year, similar time from beginning of the year to April 3rd, it was around 41% more. As you can see on the screen, it was almost 13,000 to April 13, which similar time, it was 9,184. And this chart, we are showing that last year's surge, which it was a lot already, it wasn't even top 10 in past 20 years. And we had years that it was way higher. And as you can see, back in 2016, 2017, because of the expansion of a CNA program that all the research organization and different vendor were able to assign CVEs. That was one of the year that it has a huge surge, 127. And also that year we had a couple of really bad ransomwares like WannaCry and also Equifax breach. Going back to 2004 and 5, NVD launch, also lots of SQL injection attacks, all those web exploits, and also ZDI, Zero-Day Initiative launch, now belong to Trem Macro, my former employer. And the rank 3, which is 2013 to 14, that is the year that it was still higher than last year, 53% jump, and mainly because two big bug bounty programs, HackerOne and BugCrowd, started at that time. Plus, we had Heartbleed and Shellshock. Going to last year, one of the reasons that we had this jump of 39%, it's because of the massive attack surface. And lots of software are being created on a daily basis with AI. And also advanced discovery through AI, that was another fact that we noticed. And also lots of usage of cloud. Let's take a look at the key trends that we notice. In 2024, out of that 40,000 vulnerabilities, we identified that there are 245 that it was actually weaponized. There are lots of different term or meaning behind weaponized, but when we are saying weaponized, it means that that CVE was part of an attack. It was employed in different malware campaign or ransomware. It was already in the wild and they were being abused. The other fact was CISA, which is cybersecurity cybersecurity infrastructure agency that work under Department of Homeland Security, added 186 new CVE. The other thing that was important is we are seeing a lot of attention for internet-facing assets, mainly the VPN and secure access. I will get to the last point later. We expect that CISA add 250 new CVEs. It could be older vulnerability, or it could be CVEs that being added based on Patch Tuesdays or things like that. Today is Patch Tuesday, and we expect at least 4 or 5 new CVE being added there. And 250 is not much, because if you look at from beginning of the year to today, there are 75 CVE added to CISA. And I want to quickly mention how CISA works, because we need to talk about that, and we have a lot of details to share. CISA is not obligated to add all these new CVEs, right? Because there's putting a lot of pressure on government bodies, and they are working under a binding operation called BUD 2201, which they have a guideline and they are following that. And it means that there could be some CVE being weaponized some other part of the world, like, I don't know, somewhere that US doesn't work with them closely or they are not allied. It means that those will not be considered. That's why we have a higher list of CVEs that being weaponized compared to CISA. And that's the part that is important to mention, that threat intelligence is very important, and every single vulnerability management need to have those in their product. And the very important data that we notice is 64% of CVEs that are being added to CISA KEV, being remediated, being fixed in 14 days. This is really important. It shows the impact CISA have on this work, and we really think that it is important. The other point that I will show on a chart later is 20% of vulnerability that is being added to CISA. Normally 20% are fixed before even CISA added to their KV list, which means that there are some proactive approach and threat intelligence involved, that those team remediating those quickly. We are really liking what CISA is doing, and we really want to congratulate them for the job well done, because the impact of what they are doing is very impactful and is very effective. We are seeing it across our customer, across the globe. And it's very interesting to see that not only US-based customers are looking into CISA, and there are other countries everywhere looking at this list on a daily basis. And it is a prioritization factor for lots of customers and lots of audience. And one very important fact here is that no matter what kind of vulnerability management tool you are using, you have to demand that they already have the coverage for these CISA KEVs. Because, okay, if we just know that there is a vulnerability is exploited and it is bad, and you cannot detect it with your vulnerability management, then it's pointless, because you need that in order to identify and then prioritize and plan for getting it fixed. We are happy to mention at Qualys, we have 100% coverage of those CISA KEVs. It is not easy to achieve that, but it is doable. This slide, out of that 750 million record that I mentioned, around 500 plus were CISA KEV detection. It means it was detection that happened based on one of those CISA KEVs. And the data that we are seeing is very eye-opening, because we are seeing that on average, organizations take 30 days, 30 and a half days to fix this vulnerability. And to see how the attackers are doing, we take a look at the 46 vulnerability that we had the data in regard to their time to weaponization. It means the time that it takes to put them in their malware or ransomware kit. And on average, it takes them 18 and a half days, which means that there's a 12-day window of exploitation. And this is average. Normally, average are being hit by outliers. And when you look at the medium, which is the middle point of those detection, the data show a completely different story. The attacker take around 5 days, 5.5 days to weaponize the vulnerability, and our data shows 10 days for our customers, at least, to see they are remediating. But there is a lot more data that I want to show you, and also the importance of threat intelligence and the impact of what CISA, for example, is doing is very clearly being seen here. We compare the detections that it was part of CISA, and also the detection that it wasn't tagged by CISA and it wasn't considered as a CISA KEV vulnerability. As you can see, the data showing that around 4 days longer it takes for them to get fixed. And also the median is around 14 days, which it means that there's a longer time for getting fixed. And that is the part that I want to mention, that all these vulnerability that we have here, they are all very dangerous, very bad, and also weaponized or exploited in the wild. And it really matter that when your VM company are mentioning that, okay, these vulnerabilities are having higher score and it's important, you need to really pay attention to that. This chart that I have here is for that 500 million record that I mentioned. That is how they are getting fixed over time in 2024 data. What you are seeing here, by the time that a CVE being added to CISO, around 20% of them are already fixed. It means that there are some level of intelligent, proactive patching and some automation workflow is happening behind the scene that those people already fixed their vulnerability. And this is very positive and important. But the data is showing that, for example, on day 14, 64% are fixed. Going to day 30, 82%, I believe, are fixed. But the problem is when we are heading to day 90, 3 months in, 3 months from the time that CISA mentioned these CVEs are exploited in the wild, we still see 95% are fixed. It's fantastic. But the 5%, even on the scale of the data that we have, is a lot. 25 million detection that is not being fixed. And this goes on and on, right? By day 180, still 1.5% not fixed. And it's important to use the threat intelligence that is already built in or it's available for you to take care of these vulnerabilities quickly, because when they are saying that we are seeing the active exploitation happen in the wild, that is mean that someone actively looking into these vulnerabilities and try to abuse them. And it's very important to use risk-based prioritization and also adopt a way for advanced scoring. I have another slide here that I will show you. Some of the older framework like CVSS is not even doing a justice or any helpful. They are not helpful. And it's very important to adopt advanced scoring system, a prioritization framework to help you navigate this better. This is another slide that I feel is very important because it clearly showing, we plot the data for each month for CISA curves, and what you are seeing here is very clear. The moment that the workload is enough or low, your team normally doing a really good job of taking care of those vulnerabilities. For example, in March and April, it was around 20 million detection. And you see that the data shows that the vulnerability are being fixed a couple of days prior to even being added to CISA cap. It means the workload was not that high, the team could manage it. But when you look at the months that, for example, August, 120 million vulnerability being shown, and suddenly the team are also lagging behind, right? Which is, again, the story is the data tell us that you need to use a prioritization method, some advanced scoring to say which of these vulnerabilities is really affecting your environment, and you need to pay attention quickly, because once the scale happen, what happens is the team cannot manage, and the delay creeping. We have similar data for non-CISOC have. And that's even worse because then nobody told you that, okay, this is CISOC. We are telling you that this is very important, but I say, okay, let's at least focus on CISOC. That's why you're showing, we don't even have one data point that is showing before CISOC mentioned or addition happened that vulnerability is being fixed. Also, very important, we take a look at different industries, and these industries here, I believe they are only, we are talking critical infrastructure industries, and we take a look at how many unique vulnerabilities are in those different industries. When you look at that, the number is not high, it's around 60. It means that your team and your focus need to be only on those 60 unique. Yes, obviously, for example, in case of transportation or healthcare, there is 34,000 instance per one CVE, or in case of technology, is around 10,000. It means that you need to leverage automation and some a scoring system that it can really show the impact of those and prioritize this. The prioritization is not enough, but at least that put you ahead. One slide I have here that it clearly shows how this prioritization happened, and this is reality. If you look at it, if your team are trying to fix all those 40,000, that's not gonna happen. And we all know. And it is also wrong if your team wanna just fix everything that is coming, right? That's not doable. And if you just focus on all those alert that is coming, is impossible, is not doable, is not effective, and also it put you in a bad situation. And the right way is to focus on top 1%, fixing it on under 5 days. And that is the way that you can be ahead and help your organization. The other slide I have here also is talking similar type of idea. This is critical infrastructure sectors and how the average and median for those vulnerabilities are. And you can clearly see that all the attention goes, this is, by the way, on the scale of CVSS. It means that the critical are the one that the CVSS was 9 and above, and the high was 7 to 9, and the medium is the rest. I mean, 4 to 7, 6.9. And as you can see, all the love goes to critical vulnerabilities. And we are clearly seeing these are the data for that 321 vulnerability that I show you. All of them are critical to our point of view. If you put it on a scale of CVSS, then they are not critical anymore. And that's why when you are looking at the high and medium, you see that it's not being taken care of very well, and sometimes it takes months to get fixed. Let me just quickly to clearly convey this message. We have another plot I want to show you. Around 6 months ago, CISA had a joint advisory, and they take a look at the top routinely vulnerability. It was around 40 vulnerability, and they listed up. I have a plot for this CVEs, but prior to that, I want to explain something very quickly. At Qualys, we have a scoring similar to CVSS for each vulnerability. I call it QVS. What we do is we're getting all these threat feeds, and then it goes to algorithm. It take a look at all these criteria like CVSS, if it's part of CISA, is it ransomware related, is it anyone talk on dark web about these vulnerabilities, or things like that. Okay, and based on that, we assign a score for each vulnerability. There's not asset involved, nothing. It's just based on pure characteristic of that vulnerability and the data threat intel that you are seeing. Okay, we mentioned that CISA provided these 40 plus CVEs, right? That they say is routinely being exploited. We took those CVEs, we removed the one that it was similar scoring as CVSS and also QVS. We remain with this list. What you are seeing here, we normalize the CVSS score to be able to plot this, but you can see that out of those vulnerabilities that it was stated they're all exploited in the wild, what happened is, as you can see, for the first half on the left, they are all on the scale of CVSS. It's showing that it's not important, just ignore it, which is not good, right? When there are threat intel that they are mentioning that these are need to be prioritized. That is the point by mentioning that when we are saying advanced risk scoring, it means it requires to have the context of that vulnerability to have a better idea how that vulnerability is being used and then decide. The other data point that I have here, around 2 months ago, one of the ransomware groups, Black Bossa, they had an internal conflict. And what happened was they leaked 200,000 messages of their internal chat. The chat that they were similar to our Slack and Teams, that they were discussing all these vulnerabilities, not vulnerability, mainly the day-to-day operation, how they take care of this, how they write the email, how to extort, how to send a phishing email. They had a lot of talk about different tax phishing and things like that. We take a look at that data. It was over 1.3 million line of text that they shared. There were 62 vulnerabilities that stand out that they were talking about. Before I go to those vulnerabilities, I have one slide here, but due to interest of time, I'm not able to talk about it, but it's here for you later. These are the top CVEs that they discussed and also top misconfiguration that they talk about. We can take a look at it later. We took 2 of those CVs out of 62, and we take a look at it to see how they are being fixed. And this is the result. First of all, this CVE in Jenkins, CISA added it to their CISA KEV. They specifically stated that it is part of a ransomware campaign, and they had it, all those proactive discussion already happened. When you look at the data, this is the data that shows how it got fixed over time. And if you look at it, on the day 0, when you can, on day 0, you see that around 50% of the customer, the data that we have, they find out that, okay, this is bad, they are saying is really hurting, and they go and they detect it and then they fix it. But when you look at the median, it takes 47 days to get fixed. And when you look at the data, it's showing that there are cases that advanced scoring being ignored, or there are complications that they couldn't move fast, which I will explain some of it. And also this chart, basically they call this survival analysis. Jay Jacob, who had 2 sessions yesterday, and he's also a co-chair of EPSS, had a really good blog on the technical of that. I listed here in case you want to plot something like this. Okay, let's take a look at this JetBrains. Similar story, part of ransomware, CISA added, and the data. Our threat intelligence shows that 3 days, this vulnerability, it started being abused 3 days prior to even CISA mentioning that, or being public that is being abused. And if you look at it, by day zero, 58%, I believe that's the number that you are seeing, that it's still, the 58% got fixed, but 42% is still being open. And the median, the number in the middle for those to being fixed, is 39 days. It means you need to be on the side that it got fixed on the same day, because we have the detection, you already have the patch and all the data. It just, it means that you need to have a solid workflow in order to take care of that. Plus, your tool need to have integrated threat intelligence and provide you a speedy remediation. The other data point that we take a look is patch management. And I believe the patch management these days is not optional, because when something can help you automate your patching or your workflow and put you ahead, this should be part of your toolkit. And when we look at the data, I have another chart to show you. We are saying that for the customers of us, when we take a look at the data for them, that they are using patch management, and the one that they are not using patch management, we are seeing that the one that they are leveraging patch management, they are clearly ahead. And here is a chart. 5 of these vulnerabilities are part of CISA. The other 3, I believe one of the Linux are the one that is not part of CISA. You can see that they are sometimes being remediated 20 plus days faster. And that's why the patch management is it should be considered as a proactive defense strategy for what you do. And because it helps you shorten that exposure window very quickly. And the other data point that I want to mention here is, it's not all about patch, because you need to have a good patch and remediation system in place, because it's not reality if we expect every single system to be patched, because there are cases that you cannot patch, simple as that, right? But you need to have a system to help you mitigate it in some ways. Okay, you cannot patch for whatever reason, but you need to quickly mitigate that risk by running a workaround or some mitigation script, or if you cannot do either of that, you should be able to quickly isolate that, right? Or the other thing that is very important is, okay, we cannot do any of that. Maybe you can just disable that feature. But again, the reality is these things are not very easy to do. And the IT system and IT team normally afraid of doing that, because what if we disable that component and something goes wrong? Yes, and that's completely valid way of thinking of that. That's the part that I'm saying, that you need to have a good patch management and advanced remediation tools in order to be successful and quick about this prioritization and fixing. Because so far we talk about a lot about prioritization, but prioritization without doing something, fixing something, doesn't mean much. And that's why, for example, at Qualys, we have a tool called TrueRisk Illuminate. What it does is part of patch management. It gives you the option, patch it if you can. If you cannot patch it, go have all these 10 different approach, isolate it, put the mitigation script, and everything are tested and in a similar environment as a production, in order to have a peace of mind for you to that, oh, okay, if your team run this script and something goes wrong, we already tested all of that. And you can remove something, you can uninstall, you can isolate, and things like that. I want to also, part of the chat we just had that we mentioned that sometimes it's not realistic to patch it, right? And that's true, and that's part of the complications that we are seeing. These two advisory, both of them, the Citrix one and the Ivanti one, both of them are part of a CISA cap. But if you look at it, the advisory mentioned that these versions are end of life. That is the point that you need to have a good asset inventory and lifecycle management integrated to your vulnerability management. Because if your team already knew what are those machines, where are located, what is their status of end of life, is it approaching, is it not approaching, are you good? Because if your vulnerability management team come and say, okay, we have a critical vulnerability in Citrix and you need to patch it today, okay, there's two categories. One, the one that I show you in the first day got detected and also remediated, 50%, 58% sometimes, based on those two cases. And the other part is going to take longer. Why? Because your team say, oh, there is no patch for this. We didn't know that this is end of life. No, your asset management said, okay, but it never get the data from asset management to my vulnerability management to pick up that, right? These are the point that when we are mentioning that it need to be fully integrated in order to work to your advantage. And that is a really important part, because without a good asset inventory, you are blind. And you're gonna lack the visibility. And definitely when something like this happen, a chaos happen, and your risk exposure gonna increase. And the only way is to have a integrated life cycle and asset inventory in order to do that. Let me just head to the public facing VPN and secure access, because we are seeing a lot of interest from the adversaries on this, and it's clearly not getting enough attention. And the data showing that. And basically what we are seeing that anything public facing is a prime target, and they are being abused on a daily basis. And one thing that you need to the way that you need to look at it is those public facing are similar to a storefront, is very visible, is very easy to see, is bright. And the problem is you can also imagine that they are very easy to smash. And ChatGPT done a really good job with that image, with a smashing thing. But we take a look at data to see how these vulnerability, public-facing VPN, secure access are doing. We take a look at this, and we had around 100,000 instance of VPN-related vulnerabilities. And we plot this, and as you can see here, we are seeing that out of those 100,000 vulnerability, they got fixed very quick. As you can see, at day, I believe this is a 42%, and then day 0. On day 7, 50% are non-remediated. It means you already know that there is a vulnerability in those public-facing, in this case, VPN secure access, that they are being abused and exploited, but your team are not able to move fast. And as you can see, it gets better very quick, but even on day 30, you still see 13% are not being fixed. Although it's part of a CISA cap, it's already a 0 day or a lot of discussion about it. But what we are seeing here is that they are not being taken care of fast enough. I think this slide gonna show a clear message. What we are seeing out of those 100,000 instances for VPN and secure access, the attacker, it take them on average 16 and a half days to put those CVEs and put those bugs into their workflow, in their automation, in their malware kit. For on average, it took 39 days. There's again two groups. One around 42% fixed same day that is being identified, but on average 39 days. Yes, during that 39 days, 88% remain vulnerable. And for VPN and secure access, there are lots of ways to eliminate the risk quickly. And one of them is to patch, make sure always you have the latest updates, and also replace the end of life. The other thing that you can do is having a multi-factor authentication, have the certificate for your client certificate in order to have additional security. Plus, you need to disable anything that is not important to you. And when you look at these VPN vulnerabilities, most of the case, they are talking about the UI, the admin access. And there are ways for you to take those off the internet. Make sure that there is some sort of authentication or VPN or something else needed, or you being part of the network and your corporate network in order to access that. Plus, having a good log management, plus leveraging IDS, IPS, it would be really interesting way to tackle that. I think the only important part of this presentation would be this slide, that you need to leverage a space prioritization. And in order to tackle the top 1% that they are really matter and it's important. And you need to do that under 5 days, because that is the time that we know most of those vulnerabilities being weaponized and being used in different malware or ransomware campaign. And you need to have a good, solid plan, both from asset inventory detection and all of that. And this is my next slide, that maybe you ask how we can achieve that, because that is the one that is really important. And the key point here is that vulnerability management, a solid, good, mature vulnerability management is not optional, and you cannot fight with it. You need to have that. And plus, the other key challenge here is that you shouldn't fix everything, and that is not acceptable, is not doable, or is not effective at all. And in order to do that, you need to have a holistic approach. And by that, this is a Vulncon, and we talk about all about vulnerabilities. But the key part here is that you need to have a good understanding of your inventory. Where are your all those assets? Because in today's environment, software power almost everything, and that fuel every single industry. And that means a lot of vulnerability. And we just saw in the first or second slide. The other thing is a detection. You need to have a broad detection. That's in two different ways. One, it means that every single asset that you have need to be quickly identified and detected. Sometimes you cannot detect a VPN server or Cisco device with the agent, right? And you need to have a network scanner. You need to have a container security. And also, you need to have a good host detection. Plus, when you have all this coverage of identifying the vulnerabilities in across different tools or products, then you need to have a really good vulnerability management to take care of all those vulnerability for you, to quickly add those vulnerability and have the coverage, accurate coverage for you. And once that coverage is there, then you get to the point that you need to have some level of enrichment for those vulnerability in order to give you the best tool in order to help you through the whole process. And that part is the enrichment. It means that we, as a vulnerability management company, we're going to tell you that this is a vulnerability in this asset, and you need to pay attention because the asset is a critical asset part of accounting. And then we have this vulnerability that is being actively exploited, right? This is the context that you need in order to make a decision. And then with all this detection and enrichment, that is the time. For example, one part that we have is that we are having a mapping for monitor attack and techniques, tactics and techniques. These are the ones that we are showing you how they are being mapped, how they are being used. And all of that with a good scoring to help you. Today, my team gonna take care of this and nothing else. And once you have all of that, you need to prioritize. And in order to prioritize, you need to know, okay, if I have 10 vulnerability, all are pressing, which one, right? That is the question that you shouldn't answer. That's the question that once you have a good vulnerability management in place, your tool need to tell you that, right? Because then that tool knows everything, the asset and the context around it. And lastly, you already know all your inventory, you have a good detection, and then you need to just take care of everything after prioritization by remediating it. That means that you need to fix it because you need to de-risk your environment, and it could be a patch, it could be some script running to get mitigate or isolated. Because mitigation, it might help you with your risk reduction, but it doesn't help you with your compliance. If you want to be compliant, you need to fix that vulnerability in 30 days. Otherwise, it's going to be difficult. And that is the point that you need to have an integrated platform in order to have these in place, in order to tackle that 1% of top important vulnerabilities or issues in your platform, plus fixing them under 5 days if you want to be ahead of the adversaries. And our team at Qualys, they put together something exclusive for this session. It's a bunch of asset inventory, vulnerability detection, and patch and remediation, all those together. If anyone want to test that to see how it looks like, compare it, or get in touch or talk to someone to just get a better understanding of how an integrated system can really help with that. And that was the conversation that I want to have based on the data that it was, we saw that this is very important. It was very eye-opening for even us sometimes to take a look at how things are being remediated. We definitely leveraging this data to help our customers. And because it clearly showing that there are cases that is being fixed quickly, but there are cases that there is complication, and maybe we can help. And I want to thank everyone to that they listened. It was a long conversation, and we are planning to have a report based on this data out. You can always follow me or Qualys to get informed. And thank you so much for all the help. I think we have a couple of minutes if we want to have questions. Yeah.
I totally agree with you that you've got to prioritize your vulnerabilities and the exploitable ones and the critical ones. Agree 100%. One issue we've run into is if our IT teams are only focusing on the criticals, they tend to ignore the lows, the mediums, and sometimes the highs because they're focusing only on criticals. In your research, have you ever seen situations where highs get exploited as a foothold, or any, even the mediums?
100% yes.
So again, agree on the prioritization. How do we continue that message that even though criticals and highs are our priorities, IT teams should still, part of their business as usual process, deal with the non-criticals too? Because that's one thing that we do have that issue where they only have so many times, they only have so many man hours in the day. They still need to deal with the non-CISA non-CVSS 10.0s that need to be occurred.
Let me get to this slide, right? Sorry. Okay. This is 6 months ago. If you look at top right, it says November 12 last year. These are the advisory, and you can see the logos, right? And these are 42 vulnerability that they are stating that they are seeing active exploitation. CISO do not add anything to their KV list unless they are convinced that they are seeing the active exploitation, the evidence, right? And they released this, and this was exactly what you were mentioning. Look at that. All these 5.5, you're telling me that your IT teams are, okay, this is not good enough. That's why you need to educate them with the advanced scoring that you are using. For example, I know Dan is a customer. We had a chat earlier today. You need to tell them that Qualys is providing a true risk score. That true risk score, it doesn't look at one item. It's looking at 10, 15 different things, and including, for example, all of that, right? And then this data that I'm showing here is just for the vulnerability. The true risk score that we have, it's going to consider how critical is the asset. Is it the asset that you identify as part of a finance team or taking care of something important? It's going to consider all of that. I don't have any slide for those true risk stuff because I didn't want to make it about Qualys, but it will include all of that. And then it will tell you that your true risk score is 800 and it's red. It means it's bad. You need to quickly do something. And definitely if we can have a ways to quickly have an enablement for you and for your team to, in order to educate them, that's a conversation that we should have, and we can definitely we are more than happy to do that. But yes, I totally agree. We need to educate them and give them what they need. Especially, for example, in case of remediation, right? The true risk illuminate, this is a tool that you will not use it. The IT team gonna use it because they are the one that they're gonna take care of that. And if we can give them the assurance that when you run that script, nothing bad gonna go wrong. Anyway, the point is we're gonna tell them that this is already tested and our customers are using it. We already have a positive idea that this is gonna solving your problem and not adding more problem to your list. That is why I'm mentioning that you need to have a good tools in order to help you with that. If it's a patch. If it's not patch, remediation or some other ways, basically.
Question. Yeah, I was curious. On some of your slides, you showed how fast companies were patching. Like you had mean time to remediation on one slide showing like 30.5 days, and then you had specific CVE data for the response time from companies. So I was just curious how you acquired that.
We are a vulnerability management company, right? And we do have access to all the assets being detected and how many times being detected. And the time from a first detection last detection, the time that is closed, it means that the vulnerability are remediated. We work with our team and they anonymize the data and they provide it to us. And that's the part of 750 million record that all this analysis happen. Basically, when you have the first time that is detection happen, the last time, and the close time, then you can conclude that, okay, this got closed on the same day or a week. And then multiply that 750 times and tie it to all different CVEs. That way you can plot those to see how that work over time across different industries or customers.
Awesome. This sounds like a good place to stop. Let's give a round of applause for Saeed.
Thank you, everyone.